Joining us today is Alex Sell, Chief Operating Officer at the Australian Securitisation Forum, who is speaking at IIR's Basel III conference, which takes place on the 24th to 25th of March in Sydney. Hello Alex, thanks for joining us.
Thanks James.
First of all, how can you ensure good securitisation in the new banking landscape?
Well, there's been a number of things, James, that have been taking place, not just through Basel, but also by the sister organisation on the securities side, IOSCO, both of which report to the Financial Stability Board, which ultimately reports up to the G20. Those range from market integrity related reforms, mostly revolving around transparency and disclosure, but those go both ways. They're not just an impost. I think most issuers and certainly investors regard the transparency initiatives as excellent, so they will bring in the investors, which of course issuers want. So that's not a bad reform by any means. And certainly last week the ASF announced our final disclosure and reporting package, which will shortly be followed by our arrears definition policy and also due diligence policy in relation to ensuring that the collateral is what issuers claim it is. So those sorts of reforms have been taking place. Another thing also initiated by IOSCO is something called Skin in the Game. That has been seeking to align better the interests of issuers and investors by ensuring that issuers retain a exposure to the securitisation, i.e. that they don't just originate to distribute. This was of course one of the many things that plagued the US securitisation landscape, and so certainly most Australian securitisations always have had an element of retention in them. So we're relatively relaxed about those rules. Certainly in Australia, the Australian Securitisation Forum with ASIC has reached a very sensible outcome whereby we have not got a blunt 5% retention rule as they do in certainly Europe and to a lesser extent in the US. Instead, the amount of retention required has regard to the amount of risk contained in the transaction. So by extension, the amount of retention required by an issuer for a prime AAA RMBS deal is going to be a lot less than a high risk, say, auto receivables unsecured deal. That said, given that our issuers are highly reliant on both US and European markets for investments, an Australian issuer will still be bound by the market in which they seek to place their notes. So whatever we've come up with in Australia, however good that may be, becomes slightly academic to the extent that you're trying to place to US persons or European investment organisations.
You're speaking at IIR's Basel III conference, which takes place on the 24th to 25th of March 2011 in Sydney. How important do you think events like this are for the financial community?
Well, I think that they are very important. One of the key things in all walks of life and of business is communication. Certainly, be they between the market and regulators or between market participants themselves, issuers and investors, for example. What we often read about what the other has said or claimed to have said lacks the flavour and the colour that direct communication and dialogue can bring about. Certainly we have found that having good, close, cooperative relationships with regulators and market participants has yielded enormous benefits. There are so many things that, given the context, you can actually move forward quite a long way. So I think this ongoing discourse is essential.
Alex Sell, many thanks for your time today.
Thank you.